Good evening, everyone. This discussion is for educational purpose only and not a substitute for any legal advice nor understanding or interpreting the law. The Republic Act Number 9003, also known as Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. On January 26, 2001, RA Number 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000 was enacted and became effective on February 16, 2001 after its publication in major dailies. It was enacted to provide a systematic, comprehensive, and ecological solid waste management program. Solid waste defined. Solid waste refers to all discarded household, commercial waste, non-hazardous institutional and industrial waste, street sweepings, construction debris, agriculture waste, and other non-hazardous, non-toxic solid waste. So please take note the word discarded. So a waste uh, it must be discarded so that it will be considered as waste. So solid waste must be a discarded material. The term discarded is not defined by the act, although it has been defined as to get rid of, especially as useless. Under this concept, material is not considered waste so long as it has not yet been disposed of, discarded, or thrown away. Thus, materials that are bound for recycling or use are not solid waste, for they are neither discarded nor disposed of. So, Section 2. Section 2, Declaration of Policies. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to adopt a systematic, comprehensive, and ecological solid waste management program. So, kini si Declaration of Policies, nagisgot kini siya mainly sa solid waste management. Unya, kining Declaration of Policies, nag-comprise gini siya sa kuha siya sumari sa kinatibuk-an nga act. There are 60 plus sections. So kini from A to J, sumari gini siya sa the whole act, and the remaining sections elaboration lang na siya sa kining declaration of policies. So there are 10 from A to Z. I will not read it individually, but you may pause the video and you can read it personally. But to summarize also these 10 objectives or purpose of the solid waste management, i-reduce from 1 is kining solid waste avoidance and volume reduction, collection, treatment, and disposal. So si solid waste management, ang iyang primary purpose or objectives kining solid waste avoidance and volume reduction, collection, treatment, and disposal. So the act employs a hierarchy of values in solid waste management. So they are in order of preference, they are number 1, kining sa pinakagipadak-an ni solid waste management is kining solid waste avoidance and volume control. Okay, just imagine kung gamay ra ang basura, so mas maayo nga ma-reduce jud ang ganang basura. So in what way man nga ma-reduce ang maong basura? So through composting, recycling, and reuse. So kung composting, kung naatay mga basura nga kanang malata, mga pakpak sa mga vegetables, so ato na siyang i-compose, or naapay mga waste nga pwede ma-recycle and ma-reuse like mga plastic bottles, ato na siya i-recycle and i-reuse. Pero kining composting, recycling, reuse, ma-perform lang po ni nato kung naay segregation. The act mandates a mandatory segregation. Makita na sa section 21, later on ma-discuss na. So naay mandatory segregation kay di man taka compost, di taka recycle, taka reuse kung walay segregation. So after sa solid waste avoidance and volume reduction, kung reduce gamay ra ang basura, so gamay ra sad ang ma-collect, ari na punta sa collection. So sa solid waste management, from solid waste avoidance and volume reduction, ari na po sa collection. This refer to the act of removing solid waste from the source or from a communal storage point. So sa collection, ang LGU or the barangay naa sila gitask nga mo-collect solid waste from the source. Pasabot aning source, mga basura nga gikan pa sa balay. For example, sa atong balay natin mga basura, sumao ang balay mao ay source. And from a communal storage point, so every barangay pod or municipality na sila historic communal storage point nga gi-establish kung siya temporary nga storan sa mga basura. Later on ma-discuss ra pod na. So mana collection, after sa collection adto na pod sa treatment. It is at this point that a determination is made whether a particular waste exhibits certain toxic or hazardous characteristic that it needs to be treated before being disposed. By being treated, certain harmful effects of the waste are eliminated or minimized, making disposal of the same a safe and harmless activity. So after sa collection, i-treat ang solid waste kay basin og na ay mga hazardous or infectious. And after sa treatment, ari na po sa disposal. Refer to the discharge, deposit, dumping, spilling, leaking, or placing of any solid waste into or in a land. So the last activity is to dispose the said solid waste. Mao ni ang pinaka-last, i-dispose. And the solid waste management has, is a shared responsibility from the national level and local level. So from the national level, there is a National Solid Waste Management Commission. The focus is on the policy formulation and research. And on the local level, there is the local government unit. The focus is on the implementation and enforcement. So say National Solid Waste Management Commission, from the national, siya ang mohimo mo formulate sa maong mga rules and regulations, mga policies. Si local government unit, siya ang mo implement and enforce sa kadtong na formulate nga mga policy. So the National Solid Waste Management Commission shall oversee the implementation of solid waste management plans and prescribe policies to achieve the objectives of this act. And the local government unit shall be primarily responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the provisions of this act within their respective jurisdiction. Segregation and collection of solid waste shall be conducted at the barangay level, specifically for biodegradable, compostable, and reusable waste. So si barangay naasay responsibility. Ang iyahang responsibility is to segregate and collect solid waste nga kining biodegradable only, compostable, and reusable. Mao na ang iyahang i-collect sa barangay, provided that the collection of non-recyclable materials and special waste shall be the responsibility of the municipality or city. So si munisipyo or si LGU ang iyahang pangkolektahon is kat ng mga non-recyclable and special waste. Mao na ang iyahang mga pang-collect.
National Ecology Center. It is established, headed by the Director of the Environmental Management Bureau. It shall maintain a multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary pool of experts, including those from the academe, inventors, practicing professionals, business and industry, youth, women, and other concerned sectors, who shall be screened according to the qualifications set by the Commission. The role of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. To chair the commission created pursuant to this Act, prepare an annual National Solid Waste Management Status Report, prepare and distribute information, education, and communication materials on solid waste management, Establish methods and other parameters for the measurement of waste reduction, collection, and disposal. Provide technical and other capability building assistance and support to the LGUs in the development and implementation of local solid waste management plans and programs. Recommend policies to eliminate barriers to waste reduction programs. Exercise visitorial and enforcement powers. Perform such other powers and functions necessary to achieve the objectives of this Act. Issue rules and regulations to effectively implement the provisions of this Act. The visitorial powers of the Department. The right to copy therefrom the records required to be maintained pursuant to the provisions of this Act. The right to enter the premises of any generator, recycler, or manufacturer, or other facilities anytime, to question any employee or investigate any fact, condition, or matter which may be necessary to determine any violation or which may aid in the effective enforcement of this Act and its implementing rules and regulations. The role of LGUs in solid waste management. Pursuant to RA 7160 or the Local Government Code, LGUs share with the national government the responsibility in the management of ecological balance within their territorial jurisdiction. LGUs may impose and collect fees for services rendered. The Provincial Solid Waste Management Board. It is established in every province to be chaired by the governor. Its members shall include all the mayors of its component cities and municipalities, one representative from the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, the provincial health or general services officers, the provincial environment and natural resources officer, the provincial engineer, congressional representatives from each congressional district within the province, a representative from the NGO sector whose principal purpose is to promote and the protection of air and water quality, a representative from the recycling industry, a representative from the manufacturing or packaging industry, and a representative of each concerned government agency possessing relevant technical marketing expertise. In the province of Palawan, the board shall be chaired by the chairman of the Palawan Council for Sustainable Development in pursuant to RA number 7611. In Metro Manila, the board shall be chaired by the chairperson of the MMDA. And then the Provincial Solid Waste Management Board functions and responsibilities. Develop a provincial solid waste management plan. Provide the necessary logistical and operational support to its component cities and municipalities in consonance of the Local Government Code. Recommend measures and safeguards against pollution and for the preservation of the natural ecosystem. Recommend measures to generate resources, funding, and implementation of projects and activities as specified in the duly approved solid waste management plans. Identify areas within its jurisdiction which have common solid waste management problems and are appropriate units for planning local solid waste management services. Coordinate the efforts of the component cities and municipalities in the implementation of the Provincial Solid Waste Management Plan. Develop and appropriate incentive scheme as an integral component of the Provincial Solid Waste Management Plan. Convene joint meetings of the provincial, city, and municipal solid waste management boards. Represent any of its component city or municipality in coordinating its resource and operational requirements with agencies of the national government. Oversee the implementation of the Provincial Solid Waste Management Plan. Review every 2 years or as need arises the Provincial Solid Waste Management Plan. Allow for the clustering of LGUs for the solution of common solid waste management problem. Then we have here the City and Municipal Solid Waste Management Board. Each city or municipality shall form a city or municipal waste management board that shall prepare, submit, and implement a plan for the safe and sanitary management of solid waste generated in areas under its geographic and political coverage. It shall be composed of the city or municipal mayor as head with the following as members: one representative of the Sangguniang Panlunsod or Sangguniang Bayan, President of the Association of Barangay Councils in the municipality or city, Chairperson of the Sangguniang Kabataan Federation, a representative from NGOs whose principal purpose is to promote recycling and the protection of air and water quality, a representative from the recycling industry, then from manufacturing or packaging industry, and a representative of each concerned government agency possessing relevant technical and marketing expertise as may be determined by the board. Then the mandatory segregation of solid waste. The segregation of solid waste shall primarily be conducted at the source to include household, institutional, industrial, commercial, and agricultural sources. Requirements for the segregation and storage of solid waste. There shall be a separate container for each type of waste from all sources. Then the solid waste container, depending on its use, shall be properly marked or identified for on-site collection as compostable, non-recyclable, recyclable, or special waste or any other classification as may be determined by the Commission.
Here are the requirements for the collection of solid waste. First, all collectors and other personnel directly dealing with the collection of solid waste shall be equipped with personal protective equipment to protect them from the hazards of handling solid waste. Second, necessary training shall be given to collectors and personnel to ensure that the handling of solid waste is done properly and in accordance with the guidelines pursuant to this Act. Third, collection of solid waste shall be done in a manner which prevents damage to the container and spillage or scattering of solid waste within the collection vicinity. Reclamation program and buyback centers for recyclables and toxics. The National Ecology Center shall assist the LGUs in establishing and implementing deposit or reclamation programs in coordination with manufacturers, recyclers, and generators to provide separate collection systems or convenient drop-off locations for recyclable materials and particularly for separated toxic components of the waste stream like dry cell batteries and tires to ensure that they are not incinerated or disposed of in a landfill. Prohibition on the use of non-environmentally acceptable packaging. No person owning, operating, or conducting a commercial establishment in the country shall sell or convey at retail or possess with the intent to sell or convey at retail any product that are placed, wrapped, or packaged in or on packaging which are not environmentally acceptable. Violation of this provision shall be sufficient grounds for the revocation, suspension, or denial or non-renewal of any license for the establishment in which the violation occurs. Another prohibition is against the use of open dumps for solid waste. No open dump shall be established and operated nor any practice or disposal of solid waste by any person, including LGUs, which constitutes the use of open dumps for solid waste. LGUs shall convert its open dumps into controlled dumps in accordance with the guidelines set in Section 41 of the Act. Under the Local Government Code, two requisites must be met before a national project that affects the environment and ecological balance of local communities can be implemented. First, prior consultation with the affected local communities, And second, prior approval of the project by the appropriate sanggunian. Absent either of these mandatory requirements, the project's implementation is illegal. Criteria for siting a sanitary landfill. There are 9 criteria for siting a sanitary landfill, and you may pause this video for a while to read each of these criteria. Criteria for establishment of sanitary landfill. A. Liners, a system of clay layers and/or geosynthetic membranes used to contain leachate and reduce or prevent contaminant flow to groundwater. B. Leachate collection and treatment system. Installation of pipes at the low areas of the liner to collect leachate for storage and eventual treatment and discharge. C. Gas control and recovery system. A series of vertical wells or horizontal trenches containing permeable materials and perforated piping placed in the landfill to collect gas for treatment or productive use as an energy source. D. Groundwater monitoring well system. Wells placed at an appropriate location and depth for taking water samples that are representatives of groundwater quality. E. Cover. 2 forms of cover consisting of soil and geosynthetic materials to protect the waste from long-term contact with the environment. First form is a daily cover placed over the waste at the close of each day's operations, and second form is a final cover or cap, which is the material placed over the completed landfill to control infiltration of water, gas emission to the atmosphere, and erosion. F. Closure procedure, with the objectives of establishing low-maintenance cover systems and final cover that minimizes the infiltration of precipitation into the waste. Installation of the final cover must be completed within 6 months of the last receipt of wastes. And letter G, post-closure care procedure. During this period, the landfill owner shall be responsible for providing for general upkeep of the landfill, maintaining all of the landfill's environmental protection features, operating monitoring equipment, remediating groundwater should it become contaminated, and controlling landfill gas migration or emission. According to Section 48 of this Act, the following acts are prohibited. 1. Littering, throwing, dumping of waste matters in public places, such as roads, sidewalks, canals, esteros or parks, and establishment, or causing or permitting the same. 2. Undertaking activities or operating, collecting, or transporting equipment in violation of sanitation operation and other requirements or permits set forth in or established pursuant to this Act. 3. The open burning of solid waste. 4. Causing or permitting the collection of non-segregated or unsorted wastes. 5. Squatting in open dumps and landfills. 6. Open dumping, burying of biodegradable or non-biodegradable materials in flood-prone areas. 7. Unauthorized removal of recyclable material intended for collection by authorized persons. 8. The mixing of source-separated recyclable material with other solid waste in any vehicle, box, container, or receptacle used in solid waste collection or disposal. 9. Establishment of or operation of open dumps, as enjoined in this Act, or closure of said dumps in violation of Section 37. 10. The manufacture, distribution, or use of non-environmentally acceptable packaging materials. 11. Importation of consumer products packaged in non-environmentally acceptable materials. 12. Importation of toxic waste misrepresented as recyclable or with recyclable content. 13. Transport and dumping in bulk of collected domestic, industrial, commercial, and institutional waste in areas other than centers or facilities prescribed under this Act. 14. Site preparation, construction, expansion, or operation of waste management facilities without an environmental compliance certificate required pursuant to Presidential Decree Number 1586 and this Act, and not conforming with the land use plan of the LGU. 15. The construction of any establishment within 200 meters from open dumps or controlled dumps or sanitary landfill. And 16. The construction of operation of landfills or any waste disposal facility on any aquifer, groundwater reservoir, or watershed area and or any portions therein. Section 49 of this Act provides for fines and penalties in case of violation, and you may pause this video for a while and go over these 3 slides which contain Section 49 that is all about fines and penalties. Thank you.
Hi, let's proceed to the miscellaneous provisions of RA 9003, or what we call the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. So the first stop is the mandatory public hearings, whereby for the national framework and local government and waste management plans shall be undertaken by the Commission and the respective boards in accordance with the process to be formulated in the implementing rules and regulations. And the next stop is the citizen suit. So any citizen may file an appropriate civil, criminal, or administrative action in the proper courts or bodies against. The first one is any person who violates or fails to comply with the provisions of this Act or its implementing rules and regulations. The next is the department or other implementing agencies with respect to orders, rules, and regulations issued inconsistent with the Act. And the third one is any public officer who willfully or grossly neglects the performance of an act, especially enjoined as a duty by the Act or its implementing rules and regulations, or abuses his authority in the performance of his duty, or in any manner improperly perform his duties under the Act or its implementing rules and regulations. So there is no suit can be filed until after 30-day notice has been given to the public officer and the alleged violator concerned, and no appropriate action has been taken thereon. The court shall exempt such action from the payment of filing fees, and shall likewise, upon prima facie showing of the non-enforcement of violation complained of, exempt of the plaintiff from the filing of the injunction bond for the issuance of the preliminary injunction. In the event that the citizen should prevail, the court shall award reasonable attorney's fees, moral damages, and litigation costs as appropriate. Next is so let's proceed to a decided case in relation with RA 9003. So it is a case of Mayor Tomas R. Osmeña versus Joel Capili Garganera. So as a little overview, so it is a Supreme Court case regarding a petition for the writ of kalikasan filed against the Mayor of Cebu over the operation of Inayawan landfill. So the landfill has been operating since 1993 but was ordered closed in 2011 and 2015 due to environmental and health issues. So, however, in 2016, the current mayor temporarily reopened it, whereby a petition for writ of kalikasan was filed against the mayor, and the Court of Appeals granted the writ ordering the landfill to close permanently and continue its rehabilitation. So the mayor appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court denied the appeal finding the requirements for the writ of kalikasan were sufficiently established. So the facts of the case. So the Department of Environment and National Resources issued an environmental compliance certificate to the solid waste sanitary landfill project at Inayawan landfill proposed by the Metro Cebu Development Project Office. Thereafter, the Inayawan landfill served as the herbage disposal area of Cebu City. So the Cebu City local government resolved to close the Inayawan landfill per SP resolution and EO of former Cebu City Mayor Rama. So in 2015, Inayawan landfill was formally closed. So however, under the administration of Mayor Osmeña, the city government suit temporarily opened the Inayawan landfill. So acting Mayor Margot Osmeña officially reopened the said landfill. Notice of violation and technical conference was issued by the EMB to Mayor Osmeña regarding city government operations of the Inayawan landfill and its violation of the ECC. So the DOH issued an inspection report wherein it recommended, among others, the immediate closure of the landfill due to lack of sanitary requirement, environmental, health, and community safety issues. So the respondent filed a petition for writ of kalikasan with prayer for the issuance of TEPO before the Court of Appeals. He asserted that the continued operation of the landfill causes serious environmental damage, which threatens and violates their right to be a balanced and healthful ecology. So the Court of Appeal granted the privilege of the writ of kalikasan, which ordered Mayor Osmeña and his representatives to permanently cease and desist from dumping or disposing of garbage or solid waste at the Inayawan landfill and to continue to rehabilitate the same. So Mayor Osmeña's motion for reconsideration was denied, hence this petition. So the issues of the case is whether or not the 30-day prior notice requirement for citizen suits under RA 9003 and RA 8749 is needed prior to the filing of the instant petition. And then the next issue is whether or not the Court of Appeals correctly ruled that the requirement for the grant of the privilege of the writ of kalikasan were sufficiently established. So let's proceed to the rulings of the case for the first issue. So the rulings is no. The present petition for the writ of kalikasan under the rules of procedures of environmental cases is a separate and distinct action from RA 9003 and RA 8749. So a writ of kalikasan is an extraordinary remedy covering environmental damage of such magnitude that will prejudice the life, health, or property of inhabitants in two or more cities or provinces. It is designated for a narrow but special purpose to accord a stronger protection for environmental rights, aiming, among others, to provide a speedy and effective resolution of a case involving the violation of one's constitutional right to a healthful and balanced ecology that transcends political and territorial boundaries, and to address the potentially exponential nature of large-scale ecological threats. So, let's proceed to the Section 3, Rule 7 of RPEC allows direct resort to this court with any of the station of the Court of Appeals, which states Section 2, where to file, the petition shall be filed with the Supreme Court or with any of the stations of the court if appealed. So, given that the writ of kalikasan is an extraordinary remedy and the rules of procedure of environmental cases allows direct actions to this court, and the Court of Appeals, where it is dictated by the public welfare. The court is of the view that the prior 30-day notice requirement for the citizen suits under RA 9003 and RA 8749 is inapplicable. So it is ultimately within the court's discretion whether or not to accept petitions brought directly before it. So let's proceed to Section 5, wherein the citizen, any Filipino citizen in representation of others, including minors or generations vet unborn, may file an action to enforce rights or obligation under environmental laws. Upon the filing of a citizen suit, the court shall issue an order which shall contain a brief description of the cause of action and the relief prayed for, requiring all the interested parties to manifest their interest to intervene the case within 15 days from the notice thereof. So the plaintiff may publish the order once in newspaper of a general circulation in the Philippines or furnish all affected barangay copies of said orders. So citizen suits filed under RA 9 number 8749 and 9003 shall be governed by these provisions. Then the Section 1, Rule 7 of the Rules of Procedures in Environmental Cases also provides that the nature of the writ. So the writ is a remedy available to a natural or juridical person entitled authorized by law, people's organization, non-governmental organization, or any public interest group accredited by or registered with any government agency on behalf of persons whose constitutional right to a balanced and healthful ecology is violated, or threatened with violation by an unlawful act or omission of a public official or employee or a private individual or entity involving environmental damage of such magnitude as to prejudice the life, health, or property of inhabitants in 2 or more cities or provinces. So the rulings for the second issue is yes, the court affirmed the Court of Appeals when it ruled the requirements for the grant of the privilege of the writ of kalikasan were sufficiently established. So under Section 1 of Rule 7 of the RPEC, the following requisite must be present to avail of the extraordinary remedy. So the first one is there is an actual or threatened violation if the constitutional right to a balanced and healthful ecology. The second one is the actual or threatened violation arise from an unlawful act or omission of the public officer or employer or private individual or entity. And the third one is the actual or threatened violation involves or will lead to an environmental damage of such magnitude as to prejudice the life, health, or property of inhabitants in 2 more cities or provinces. So expectedly that the rules do not define the exact nature or degree of environmental damage, but only that it must be sufficiently grave in terms of territorial scope of such damage so as to call for the grant of this extraordinary remedy. The gravity of environmental damage sufficient to grant the writ is thus to be decided on a case-to-case basis. So wherefore the petition is denied. So that's all for today, and thank you very much everyone, and I hope you have a great day ahead.